with me this morning. It's not morning. It's afternoon. Sorry.
That's how dynamic I am.
That's how dynamic you are,
Crazy.
right? Do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, my name is Kyle Blomquist. I was born and raised in the Upper Peninsula. I live in Iron Mountain nearby, and I'm running for the Democratic Party nomination to challenge Jack Bergman for U.S. House of Representatives in the fall.
Wonderful. Well, welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Yes. You've been making it a kind of a trip today all over the place.
Oh, yeah. We did a fireside chat with Menominee Dems for the Medicare for All Forum, and so we were explaining the effects of Medicare for All, what it is, what it isn't, and we had a great turnout, great conversations.
Good.
And tonight we're going to be having a candidate forum here in Menominee, and I'm excited for it.
Yeah, it's going to be a good turnout, I think. I think it's going to be a good time.
Yeah.
So, but I have some questions for you, my friend.
Awesome.
So, for listeners and viewers who may not know you yet, can you tell me a little about your background and what motivated you to run for Congress?
Oh, shoot. Yeah, that's a big question.
I know.
Well,
kind of lead off with a big one.
Yeah, I'll start with a little background on me. You know, I was born and raised in Iron Mountain. I am an architect by trade. That's actually where I met my wife, Megan, and her and I own and operate a small firm in Iron Mountain. Her and I have identical twin boys.
Aww.
You know, they're good Uber kids right
Yeah.
there. They like to snuggle and roughhouse in equal measure,
Oh.
but nothing in between. They like to play around in the woods, play football, play soccer, play by the lakeside, and do all this. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, you know, one of the biggest challenges when you're deciding to run for office is understanding that the wife that you have been basically working with going back to undergrad in college and the kids that you snuggle with every night, that you're going to spend some time apart. And I wouldn't do this if I didn't ultimately think that it would be worth it, and that if it wasn't a winnable race, right? The reason I'm running for Congress is really I didn't see my values represented on either side of the ballot, yet. And I was the last one to announce candidacy for the Democratic Party primary. And really what I want more than anything is not to talk through this partisanship and talk about Democrats and Republicans and all that stuff. Everybody's so tired of that. It creates a pointless wedge that really is used by the powerful to divide the American working class. And instead what I want is just talk to people on an individual basis and say, I want what's best for you. I think that your basic needs should be treated as human rights, and I think that our government has a hand in that we should be spending our resources in this country making sure that your needs are met, rather than prioritizing any number of violent outlets, whether that be war abroad or some of the abuses of ICE here, domestically.
Definitely. Oh my gosh, great answer.
Okay, awesome. Well, there you go.
Like a game show, right? No,
Sure. Yeah. Well, we should have a score.
We should.
Yes, we should. Okay.
She could take the score.
Yeah. Danny, keep score.
Keep score, Danny.
Infinite points.
Right. All right. People in northern Michigan and the UP often feel overlooked by Washington. What specific issues facing the, let's see that far away, their region, issues facing their region would you fight to address if elected to Congress?
No, I think that's an excellent question. I think that you're 100% right. Is people in the Upper Peninsula and northern Michigan, CD1 is a huge, huge district. It's second largest east of Mississippi, and that's just by land mass. As soon as you count the Great Lakes and the amount of travel distance and how circuitous each route to every community gets, it's a pretty huge district.
Yeah.
And the tendency, throughout my life is this feeling that your tax dollars go down to Lansing or they go down to Washington, that you're isolated from the levers of power, and that you never see those really come back. And I think that a lot of the times what that plays out with, as in, say, the State House, or even in Washington, is we're going to characterize the Upper Peninsula or Northern Michigan's issues to being about conservation or about like game law or any number of these other things. Yeah. When the reality is our needs, whether you're in Felch or you're in Florida, you need health care. You cannot have your rural healthcare system crumbling like it has been, sagging under its own weight our entire lives, and nodes of care coming offline, and the distance between you and your care growing, and not look at that and say that is the paramount question of our time, is how do we make it so that people in rural America
Mm-hmm.
can get care, and they don't go bankrupt, or they don't have to avoid care because of the cost.
Exactly. I know, like my family up in Belch, they used to have, I think it was Doc Anderson that came to the senior center.
Mm-hmm.
So him and my aunt, who was his nurse practitioner, would be there, and you know how everybody in that area. Well, then after he retired and the hospital did whatever, there's no longer a clinic in Belch. So where do they go? Do they drive to Escanaba? Do they drive to Iron Mountain? They're kind of stuck in limbo.
Right.
You know?
And the way that our healthcare system works is it's not built on care, it's built on profit, right? And so when we see that profit margin not be adequate enough for any number of the conglomerated healthcare systems, like let's say Aspirus, and they decide that they're going to close a labor and delivery department in Ironwood, that affects our lives, but it was a cold, calculated business decision on their part.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think that that's something that we need to rely on, that we're always going to juice the system, make sure that it's been fed enough of our taxpayer dollars to be profitable to a private corporation, and that that's what we have to hang our, the lives of people in the Upper Peninsula on, right?
No. Mm-hmm. Oh, so many families say the cost of living, from groceries to housing, continue to climb. What policies would you support in Congress to help bring relief to working families?
Oh man, I think one of the best ones that you touched on is housing. Is whether you're down in Detroit or you're in New York City or you're up in the Upper Peninsula, your housing costs are ballooning out of control. And there's a number of factors for that. It's the cost of construction that's being driven by a lack of availability of skilled labor, price gouging on the material side. As an architect, I see it every single day.
I imagine you would.
You have people, the short-term rental investment is really driving up housing prices in our community. Mm-hmm. And the investment from private equity firms, hedge funds, nationally to buy up single-family residences has made it so that we are competing, the American working class is competing with people who have functionally infinite money, and they really just care about it as a portfolio piece, an asset that's going to appreciate. But that's our lives. That's the how we afford to live in our communities, the places where we work. And if as we see that our wages continue to stagnate and our housing costs continue to balloon, then the question always becomes, how can people afford to live in the communities they work?
Exactly.
And so I believe that we should ban private equity from owning single-family residential, that we need to force them to divest and basically repatriate a lot of those single-family residences back in the hands of owner-occupants, the American working class. Because that is how we have always built household wealth, is through home ownership.
Exactly.
And then the other component of housing that I think is under-discussed is that we need to get back to building public housing again. Dating back to the 40s and 50s and 60s, we used to build public housing. It was a public service that was able to accommodate people on the low end of the market so that they could graduate to those homes and those more expensive apartments.
A launching pad.
Exactly. But we've completely removed that launching pad. And all of the housing projects that I look at, they're either dubiously affordable, they're aiming towards that kind of bottom third of the market rather than the bottom 10% or quarter of the market. And so there is no launching pad. So I think that we need to repeal the Faircloth Amendment, which functionally limited our ability to create public housing, and we need to reinvest in our homes here.
Oh, definitely. They've been doing that around in our communities here, where the previous hospital was. That property has now been purchased for apartments and single-family homes. Yeah. So affordable housing, not this, jacked up rate.
Right. Well, and when I look at housing investment relative to, say, what we spend on defense, or let's call it what it is, what we spend on war, is when Congress decides that they're going to grow our military budget by $180 billion, right? They go from somewhere in the $800 billion to almost $1 trillion military budget. And they will pass that with bipartisan support with almost zero discussion There's no big platform
Oh
thing.
my
It's not this
gosh.
big war on the
Yeah.
floor of Congress. They just do it, right? But our HUD budget is something like $77 billion. So it's dwarfed relative to what we spend on war. And then we complain about a housing crisis. How can we complain about a housing crisis when we're not diverting the funds necessary to actually address it?
Oh my gosh. Oh, I don't know why. Why are you doing this?
Yes.
So our region has strong ties to manufacturing and defense industries, including shipbuilding and military support.
Mm-hmm.
How would you work in Congress to strengthen those sectors and protect American jobs?
Well, I think that it's understanding that any investment that we put into, say, something like weapons manufacturing or shipbuilding or those sorts of things that are really a part of that war machine somewhere down the line, right? Mm-hmm. When you have that, if you reallocate those funds, that will reallocate those funds to other industries. That will reallocate those funds to domestic shipbuilding, to commerce, to trade, to shipping within the Great Lakes region.
Oh, yeah.
It will also free up infrastructural spending. So then we'll take jobs that we're otherwise doing as shipbuilding and these other things to be able to build your roads and your bridges and those sorts of things. I believe that we need to have a resurgence of a works progress administration, what we had coming out of the New Deal, where we're putting Americans to work, building America, right. And that we need a federal jobs guarantee that says that we have work needing to be done here at home, and we need to invest in the people and the progress here,
right,
rather than wasting it abroad.
Exactly. I 100% agree with you on that one. And lastly, last question for you, Kyle. If voters send you to Washington, what kind of leadership style can they expect from you, and what would success look like for you, for your district after your first term? Oh my gosh, Melissa, do you want me to read that?
No, I got it.
I couldn't get it out.
No, you're fine. You're fine. To me, what success looks like in the first term, because if I'm elected in 2026, then I'm still going to have Donald Trump in office. Hopefully we being the Democratic Party, would be able to claw back control of at least the House, hopefully the Senate as well. But that's not enough for me, because I see that it's not just a Republican-Democrat thing. Because the way I look at it is that Chuck Schumer is the leader of the Democrats in the Senate. Hakeem Jeffries is the leader of the Democrats in the House. And if you had 100 Chuck Schumers in the Senate and 435 Hakeem Jeffries in the House, you still would not have Medicare for all, right, because they do not support those policies. We would still be funding Israel at a time when they are committing genocide in Gaza and doing any number of other things and entangling us in greater regional war in Iran. And I look at that and I say the lift is a lot heavier than just replacing red with blue. It really is replacing anybody that stands between us, the American working class, and a dignified life needs to be replaced. And the best thing that I can do in my first term is, one, vote for progress wherever it is allowed, right, but also using your platform to call out people on either side of the aisle who stand between us and the realities that we want.
That's phenomenal. Thank you.
Yeah.
Is there anything else that you want to say to our viewers and listeners?
Sure. Let me. I'll do the plug. The plug.
Do the plug.
Danny's like, yeah, do the plug.
Do the plug.
I would say go to our website, blomquistforcongress.com, BL10NM quist.com for congress.com. Consider a donation to our campaign. Like I said, it's a really huge district. That means a lot of gas mileage. That means a lot of hotel stays and hamburgers and those sorts of things, right, to get to fuel you on the road. So any donation that they could provide to the campaign would be absolutely phenomenal. Sign up to volunteer. Is when you have a huge district like this, I can't be everywhere at once. And so we're going to need people to evangelize the message in a way that I like to evangelize the message, right, which is really to say that I don't care how you voted in the last election. If you sell some of your finite time on this earth for $1, and if you ever stop selling that time for $1 and you slide into destitution and our society forgets you, then you're of the American working class, and you're of the 90%, and regardless of how you vote, you're my ally. And I want people to be able to drop that partisan barrier so we can talk to each other as neighbors again.
Right.
And so then lastly, I would just say, follow us on social media, share our stuff, and help us spread our message, because it really is, it's one that we're trying to resonate with people regardless of their partisan leaning.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to come in this afternoon and be on the show and all that good stuff.
Yeah,
so,
thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. And everybody else, I will see you tomorrow morning.